Welcome to Missing the Point. We're the fucking champions of the world. The Boston Celtics are your 2024 NBA champions. The heartbreak, the despair, the pain of past playoff runs, losing to Miami, even though we came back from 3-0 down, losing to Golden State, everybody looking tired in the finals, doing podcasts talking about who is the guy, who's not the guy, do they have it in them? Is the team just stacked now? Worrying about narratives as we come into the Kyrie Irving versus the city of Boston. And in the end, boys and girls, none of it meant shit. We were just way too good. This is the way too good Boston Celtics team. So good that everyone in America that isn't a Boston Celtics fan is furious at how easy we made that look, especially since the first and second round were so electric of this year's NBA playoffs. But all I have to say to that, guys, is sorry we were the best team by far. Really sorry. I think it would have been cool to have more Palace intrigue involved, but unfortunately, suck our dicks.
I said this before we came on, but did it almost make it less enjoyable for anyone since we didn't have to sweat it out whatsoever?
No, I love that.
No, because I think when you're this good, right? Like you have to leave no doubt, and that's essentially what they did this entire fucking run. I mean, what was it, 16-3? Pretty unquestioned right there.
I mean, they had every question asked of them that people were asking throughout the non-basketball times. Like everybody was asking, like, oh, can they weather a storm? Like, will they panic if like somebody's coming back? Can they make defensive adjustments? Will they play really hard defense? Oh, Marcus Smart's gone. Is the heart of the team gone? You know, I mean, they were asked every question. And honestly, I think, Ray, if you could speak to this, the defining moment of the playoffs for me was when we started to give up that lead in Dallas. And the crowd was loud as fuck. The Mavericks were playing out of their mind. Their backcourt was unstoppable. Both their guys were scoring at will. It was the exact nightmare scenario that we had all thought up in our heads. Like, we're ahead. They're cutting into a 20-plus point lead, and we're watching it slip away. And they just, while it was happening, while the lead was getting given up, I was like, I think we're fine. I genuinely think we're going to be fine. There was something about the body language. There's something about how they were carrying themselves, how they were playing that I think is the proving point of this Boston Celtics team. Once that happened, I think the Mavs were like, all right, well, we got to get one for pride, but they were done.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm still at a loss for words, honestly. Last night was incredible to be there and to see it live and to see the confetti fall. Once again, I was there on the floor when we lost to Golden State, 2 years ago, and to hear all their players screaming and crying and yelling on the floor. So I was glad to be on the winning side of that. Yes, I mean, game 3 definitely was a defining moment. Really, it seems to be the last two series, because game 3 in Indiana was really a defining moment of that series too, where Jrue Holiday gets a steal at the end of that game. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I wish they had been the first team ever to, sweep the conference finals and NBA finals, because when I tell you, I mean, I already can be insufferable. It would have been unfucking real if we had swept through both rounds, because I would have talked shit forever and a day. Like I'm still gonna talk shit on the show, and so the rest of us. But it was amazing to see. Like I said, I love how they handled business. They proved me right. Like I said, I'd been calm all year. Once again, I had this internal struggle with me and Mike, because Mike was like, you've been fucking sunshine and rainbows. And I'm like, there's a fucking reason. And it got proven last night. So I feel vindicated. So I don't have to say much during the show, because once again, 88-21, they won it. So I'm good. I feel great right now. We did it. And then I had to get that out there. I had to. I mean, it feels so good.
Only 2 losses in an entire playoff run through the playoffs is unbelievable. That's like
3.
It's a 3. Sorry, 3. My bad.
Yo, crazy.
That's like when you're playing NBA 2K and your team's too good, it gets boring. You know what I mean? Where you have to like make some trades in the offseason to offload some dudes because you're too good.
Right.
I'm on my
that's why the
12th
Celtics-
championship in a row with the Seattle Supersonics. And
That's what I mean.
It's getting out of control. I just log on there to win games like 135 to 80 because I had like Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson on the same team. It was crazy. So it's like, sorry, I got sidetracked. Back to real life basketball. Mike, talk me through how you were feeling when we won the championship. I know for me, I think I was in like protective denial up until maybe like midway through the second quarter when I knew we were going to win. And it started to sort of dawn on me that we were going to be champions. And I really thought to myself, I was like, I think I was really putting up some emotional walls here to protect myself just in case they fucked me again. Because the last 2 years were like, honestly, so devastating. Like at times, like the way that they played against the Heat, like it was so frustrating to like sit in a fucking hotel bar and watch those losses. It was just like with like Heat fans every single night. And like, I'm just sitting there just being the most miserable cunt from Boston you've ever seen in your life. And to go from that to this, like it was such a beautiful like feeling because winning never gets old, dude. It just never fucking gets old. When you win some shit, the feeling is like, it honestly just feels, it doesn't even feel like excitement or exuberance. It feels like a warm hug, like a relaxing sort of pressure release valve that says like your team was the best team. Like all your time wasn't wasted. And they did it for you, and like I was just content, more than, and like it's sort of based off what Bobby was saying with the like, is it less enjoyable because it was less relaxing? It's an age-old sports debate. I think a man in your 30s, you just want the nice relaxing destruction, no?
Yeah. No, I mean 100%. I was never more happy to be proven wrong about a group throughout like the entire like last 4 years. I just think game 4 was, I wasn't even that, like I was mad about the final score, but that's really it. It's like,
I was kind of chilling. Yeah. How bad of a beatdown it was really the only kind of emotion I felt. Like I was kind of pissed that it was as bad as it was, because that's the worst thing we could have done in game 4. But I also was sort of contented with the thought that if we do the worst thing in game 4, we're still going to be champions. Probably. Right. It's like,
Yeah. Like game 4 showed us that Luka and Kyrie had to be perfect, and everyone on the starting 5 of the Celtics had to play terribly. And that's what's going to happen. And that's not going to happen more than one game in a 7-game series. I'm so happy for Al Horford. I think, it's easy to forget that he was the first big signing of ever. I would say free agent signing of Boston.
Yeah, twice.
Well, he was traded here the second time.
That's true. That's true.
But like he helped build this culture, and he was just under Karl Malone for the most playoff games ever without a win. Happy to see him going to win. I mean, I'm sorry, DK, but I kind of like Joe Mazzulla now.
Oh no, I am a true believer.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah. No,
I mean,
we'll get
honestly,
into that. Don't worry.
I mean, honestly, like I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, because like as a man, I just have to stand up and say, like, from the bottom of my heart, I was wrong about Joe Mazzulla. I think he's a fucking geek.
He's got some Belichick in his persona.
I think he's an absolute.
You know what I mean? He definitely does.
I think he's maybe, but I think he's an absolute fucking dork. But I was reacting to that and not to his improvements as a basketball coach. But Ray, back me up here a little bit. That like he made some improvements in the regular season. He looked better as a coach from like day to day. But the leap he took in this playoffs, before our very eyes, like, I apologize for saying he eats crayons. I do apologize for saying that. However, when I said he was doing stupid shit, he was doing stupid shit. And then he stopped doing stupid shit. So the only thing I can do is like have the character to throw my hands up and say, like, now you're getting it right. So, right, Ray? I mean, I wasn't fucking.
No. I mean, I think it was our concerns were valid, but at the same time, it was a bit overblown. And like I said, same here. Like I said, especially last year, like I was, we were livid with the timeouts. We were livid with some of the rotation that were being thrown out there. And once again, yes, hindsight is always 2020, but remember, this man came into a very wild situation, and they still won 57 games last year. Like, then comes back, year under his belt, they win 7 more games, and they only lose 3 in the playoffs. Like, so just like you said, his it was leaps and bounds to where he was coming in to this role. And when I think about it now, because we haven't really said this on the show, like any of the 4 of us, but I'll say it now. We talked about the whole Brad Stevens thing, and he kind of reminds us of Brad. Well, Brad has not missed as a GM, and I know we'll get into that later on. He has not missed as a GM, and bringing on Mazzulla, who was a part of his coaching staff, he saw it then. So he clearly knew that when he stepped into this role, he was like, it may take a while, but he's the guy. And every move he has made, whether it be big, intermediate, or small, has worked out in our favor. So, listen, when I look back, we shouldn't have questioned it, but at the same time, it was warranted. But he clearly has become the man for the gig and should be here for a long time. So,
Bob, you and I have probably talked the most about how much we wanted it to be Ime. Like, you and I have probably had those conversations more than any other like combo, primarily because he got them to play a certain brand of defense, in a playoff run that we all saw, and we wanted that to be the identity of our team. Also, the video where he's calling LeBron James bitch made, I really enjoyed. So those 2 things are why I wanted Ime back. But this Celtics team under Joe Mazzulla just won a final series based on their defense. They started with their defense. They finished with their defense. Drew Holiday, alpha, leader of the pack from a defensive standpoint. Some of the shit I was hearing, have you listened to any of those mic'd up moments with Jaylen Brown? Like, all he was doing was, I was on the show, I think it was either with Mike or Ray, and I think it was Ray, I was saying, like, I want JB to be, like, getting subbed back in when Luka gets subbed back in. Like, I want him just, like, staring at him from the bench. And that is what he was doing. He was doing that thing that I was asking for when he was on the sidelines.
Box 1, baby.
Yeah, he was like, if Luka gets back in, like, let me go back in. And then he was saying shit like, if he gives the ball up, I'm not letting him get it back. If he wants the ball, he should take it up himself. Like, he was being a psycho. He was being a full-blown defensive psycho, which is exactly what I wanted from him. Like, Ray and I talked about it. So, Bobby, I mean, like, are we good? Can we let go of the past? Can Joe Mazzulla finally, like, can we unbreak our heart and, like, give another man a chance? Can we do it?
We're gonna have to, because this dude's only 35 years old. So he's going nowhere for a very long time. He's entrenched in Boston sports history with this championship, and he's going to be the coach of the Celtics for a very long time. I bet you they sign him to a huge deal within the next 2-3 years.
He's got a great roster, but he had to do some shit to get to those to get to that win total across the entire playoffs. We won 79 games. We won 80 games.
Won 80.
We won 80 fucking games in basketball this season. Yeah. That's crazy.
And he outcoached.
So crazy.
He outcoached Spoelstra, however you want to say it.
Spoelstra is the pharmaceutical wing of the Eric Spoelstra. Spoelstra. Are you tired of not being a good basketball coach? Are they having players only meetings behind your back?
Are you outcoached Kid?
Try Spoelstra.
I'm here for, guys. They mispronounced names. Is what I did. I didn't go anywhere. Don't worry. But yeah, and he outcoached Kid too. So it's not like it wasn't.
Are we 100% sure Jayson Kidd's a good basketball coach? I kind of wanted to talk about this. I saw some moments in that Mavericks series where I was like, who?
He's not
the gentleman that you just put on the floor.
He doesn't do much. It doesn't seem.
Yeah. He
was like Mazzulla last year, is what I feel like Jayson Kidd does. He needs some good assistants around him a little more, because it just feels like he lets it ride a little more than normally you'd like.
Well, I mean, remember he was the coach of those Brooklyn teams that had Pearson, Garnett, and that team had wiped the floor with the Miami Heat, and then he smacked them in 5 in the playoffs. Then he becomes the coach in Milwaukee with a young Giannis, and they get to the playoffs, but they don't do anything. Then he's away for a while, and he comes back to replace Rick Carlisle and Dallas. So, yeah, he's taken some lumps as a coach. And once again, most great players that are stars aren't really great coaches because they see the game differently. And yeah, at kid point guard, they probably beat us because he probably would have carved us up, for sure. But the way he sees the game, the way his players would see the game, you can preach the message all day, but there's a reason why to me role players are better coaches than they are, than when they were
I think I'd spot him Jayson Kidd and run that series back. I'd prime Jayson Kidd and run that series back. Yeah. Let's do it. I'd be fine with that. I'm pretty confident we would still win. I'll be honest. Yeah. I think like a prime Dirk, I would.
They would have won a few games. What I'm saying, it wouldn't have been 4-1. That's what prime Jayson Kidd.
Prime Dirk would have been tough without Porzingis.
Yeah, prime Dirk.
Yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Sorry, I went down the wrong path. I see your point. I do see your point. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I mean, but I guess isn't that the skill of a coach to be able to translate that information and like get your players to see it? Whatever perspective you're coming from.
They were for the first 3 series, and once again, it was so much that had been overblown or overstated about who the Celtics didn't face and what they didn't face and what they didn't have to encounter. But obviously, the Clippers didn't have Kawhi the whole series against Dallas in the first round, and the healthy Kawhi, I'm not sure they get past LA, right? But that is, like I said, because it was a better story. Then, obviously OKC was the 1 seed all year, but let's be real, they were inexperienced. So it was
very young team, very young.
Yeah, they're a young team, you know what I'm saying? So that
and they have 1 billion picks. I'm a little worried about them, to be honest.
Right, Minnesota, but I mean, not an excuse. It's true. Minnesota was obviously gassed by the time they got to that series. It took everything for them to beat Denver.
Yeah, It reminded me of how we looked after we got out of that Milwaukee series in 22. It was just like that was just such a high mountain to climb, and it's a young team. And there was some boneheads on both teams too. Like I do think Karl-Anthony Towns, like you have to be a better playoff player. But Luka did the same shit in the finals. Like he had a game where he had a real Karl-Anthony Towns performance, Mike. And like, I feel like people did turn on him a little bit. Like, I think there was a little bit of a national media narrative switch. I mean, I guess I can see Ray's point. Like, can you blame Jayson Kidd
Sports Hub was calling him a fat slob.
Yeah, well, we don't worry about them. But I can see Ray's point that Jayson Kidd maybe can't be blamed because there was no adjustments to make. Like there was no real, correct me if I'm wrong, Ray. It's like there was no real way to do anything to stop what we were doing to them because the matchups were just too bad in every one-on-one situation. Like they could basically switch on to Al and they could kind of do something. That was it. They couldn't switch on anybody else and expect to really get like.
And even after a while, as always, Big Al figures it out. And
yeah, he basically put it together by the end, and he just stopped dropping so hard, which, I mean, it worked. Like he did what he had to do. We just made their shots difficult at the rim. That was the entire game plan for the entire series, but we made their shots so difficult. So it's like, you know what? If Luka and Kyrie are going to beat us from the 3-point line, like we'll just live with that. And like Kyrie's shooting was, I don't know if I saw him hit a 3. Like, did he hit a 3 in that whole series?
Maybe
game 2 he had a few.
Yeah, maybe a couple he had it, but
I was just worried about him starting to get his shot going, so I was watching it extra closely, and I just feel like the big moments he didn't hit shots.
Drew Holiday had him in jail.
Clamped. He had Luka for periods too, though.
Yeah, but I'm like he really took Kyrie out of it, and like I said, outside of game 2, and I it's funny because I want to give credit to Mike here with this because I didn't fully believe Mike when he said this because I was just like, I don't know if he scores this much, will they lose? So I think game 2 he had, and I think Mike was only 2 points off. He was like, it's gonna be wild when he scores 33 in a game, and they go home with the loss. And I'm like, if he scores 33, they might come back to Dallas tied. And he scored 30, he scored 35, and they went home. They went down 2-0. And I said, oh my God! I was like, they're going to win this series in either 4 or 5 games. So this is crazy. So Mike, I give you the flowers in the moment because I was like, there's no way if that man gets 30 on us and then Luka doing what he was doing that they not go back tied. But they found a way, and from there it was a wrap.
It's like what we talked about last week, though, right? It's like Luka's still going to get his 30 to 35 points. He's just like they're just going to make him take 8 additional shots to do it. Right. And work his ass off. Like every single game, I guess, except for game 4, he was gassed in the fourth. I think it's all about like the confidence and what this team looked like compared not just to themselves in 2022, but like to your point, DK. Did Kyrie hit a 3 that series? That's a legitimate question. He shot better than Jaylen Brown from 3. But you just would never think that based on what we saw.
He also probably took less 3.
They were so quiet the entire.
Right.
I feel like Luka, he probably still averaged close to 30 points a game, but it was the quietest 30 points that you've ever seen from Luka Doncic. It didn't make us lick a difference in the game.
No, every time Luka scored, I was fine with how it happened in the context of the game. Like he would get a big, like hard-working layup, and I'd be like, dude, that's fine.
That's fine. Right? Yeah, that's totally fine. 100%.
Even in game 4 though, right? Like he was, and once again, Mike's usually in my head when these type of games happen because Mike will kill our guys for these type of games. So I just had to bring it up here. So yes, they blew us out game 4. Luka was 12 of 26, which is 46% from the field. That's all. That's not great. He was 0 of 8 from 3. 0 of 8. Like, and it's just like he got carried by his other teammates that game because everybody stepped up. So even when they had their great game, their best player wasn't that good. And that was the thing. He just wasn't good enough when it mattered, especially in the fourth quarter. We got on Tatum for his fourth quarter woes, and rightfully so. Luka was a joke in the fourth quarter for the most part too, outside of game 3. So,
but even to spin that into a positive for the Celtics, like the way that Luka Doncic and this Dallas Mavericks team were talked about, like I find the narrative leading into it very interesting. Obviously, it's not the same for us because we're Celtics fans. We're looking at it from a certain kind of perspective, but the national media narrative was so focused on Dallas because the narratives were there. The storylines were there for them. I get why. I'm not criticizing them for that, but it's just interesting to me that the thing people were saying with their fucking chest about the Celtics was like, all you got to do is make them have a bad game from 3. All you got to do is make them have a bad game from 3 and like they just collapse. We had bad playoffs from 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had a bad playoffs from 3 from our best shooters, like literally across the board. I feel if Porzingis was healthier, this might not be as true because I think that his shot was incredibly consistent coming into the playoffs, and I didn't see it going anywhere.
And the offense just ran around him so much better.
It was beautiful
when he was in there.
When we had the moments to watch it, it was absolutely beautiful to watch. But I digress. We had a bad playoffs from 3. We had a terrible finals from 3, especially in our top 3 shooters, and not including Porzingis. And like, ineligible to be graded here because didn't play enough minutes, if that makes sense. But if you're looking at Derek White, Jayson Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, bad 3-point performance across the board. But it didn't matter because they just did the thing that we asked them to do, which was go to the fucking hoop. And against this Mavericks team, I don't know, like, people got mad at me, Ray, about that comment about Derek Lively and there being 24 better centers than him in the NBA and only like 4 or 5 better centers than Kristaps Porzingis. They were up in those comments, Ray, after we had that conversation. And I was like,
people thought, right. I guess, well, I didn't get comments online. I got the text messages afterwards, and I said, me and Dave, I said, and the 4 of us on here, I said, know what the fuck we're talking about. I said,
you're right. Sorry.
But I told him, I said, take the emotion out of what you claim that we said. I said, sit back and watch this show that's about to happen. And like I said, we were spot on. And I was getting all fuck you. Okay, cool, that's fine. You can say whatever you want to say. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Get your popcorn ready because you're about to have an experience.
To be fair to them,
it was
to
the
be fair to them.
Experience. So
I'll give the TikTok commenters one little piece. I'll say this: I do want to actually amend my statement about Derek Lively. I said there was 24 or 25 better centers than him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 25, and I will say the name Al Horford at some point when I'm listing all the centers that are better than him. Now, that's not to say that in a year, 2 years, Al couldn't give it to him like he was giving it to him out there when Porzingis was on the floor, with the exception of game 4. I think Lively had a great game 4. Yeah, no, Al Horford was giving it to you, buddy. He was fucking giving it to you because he just looked like a guy who needed that. He needed that fucking chip, and I don't think Derek fucking Lively's getting in his way. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how I felt about it.
Yeah, not at this moment.
No, I mean, and I know we touched on it briefly and how happy we are for Al, but we got to speak a little bit about his actual in-game performance. I think defensively he was wonderful, and then in that final coup de grace, he hit some really big threes down the stretch, really nice looking ones that just really cemented the game. And I was glad it was him. Were you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what he's been able to do. And I think what's funny, his professional career is starting to now look like the end of his collegiate career. He won back-to-back titles in his junior and senior year at Florida. He now, at what could be potentially his second to last season, he wins the championship. I think his extension is through next year or maybe the year after, if I'm not mistaken. He could go out back to back, and that would be. And I want to be clear
Be
for
the
those.
sickest career ever.
Yeah, I want to be clear for those that think that he's on the fence or Holiday is on the fence. If they go back to back, you guys are putting the cart before the horse. Fine, whatever. But we're gonna have those fucking conversations. If they go back to back, you can rest assured that both Drew Holiday and Al Horford are Hall of Famers. Right? First ballot, no. But when you look at
I think Al Horford, it's the basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA.
no, right.
Al Horford was already a fucking Hall of Famer.
Because and this is once again, this is just something I've heard before, so I'm not knocking Horford when I say this, but actually it's actually a compliment to how great this player I'm about to compare him to. People have called him like the Walmart Tim Duncan, and I'm like, especially once he got his jump shot when he came here, because I think his career would have been over had he not developed that jump shot once he got here. So thank you, Brad Stevens, for telling him he had to get his ass behind the 3-point line, because he now entered into like the Paul Gasol, that era of a player or that type of player. So I think for me, 5-time All-Star, I think a couple of defensive teams, 2-time national champion in college, like I said, now NBA champion. Like, to me, like I said, if he ends his career the way he started his college or ended his college career, like, to me, there's no doubt. And then Drew being the 3-time champion defensive player, like, there's no way that they're not in the Hall of Fame, if you ask me.
Bobby, what was your favorite Al Horford moment of all time in a Celtics uniform?
When he's winning a ring. I mean, I think that's the easiest answer to give, but it's true.
Yeah, it was awesome.
This dude, either that or the Giannis stare down from 2 years ago.
That turn me on, baby.
It epitomizes Al Horford in a T right there. Yeah. You know what I mean? The fact not taking shit from anyone and it being Giannis of all people, and he's saying, I can stop you. Not on me. Not on me.
Not really like a shit talking team. We have this Celtics team, like not as much as I would like, at least. I like a little chippiness in the team, but the one kind of shit talking that happened was there was a couple of little dust ups, but Al was talking shit to Luka.
He's got one more year on the contract, by the way.
Nice. Al was talking shit to Luka, and it was in a way where he was like, I don't know what was said exactly, but he just looked like fed up. Like, he was like, can you just shut the fuck up, dude? Like,
Luka doesn't shut the fuck up, man.
Like, just shut the fuck up.
How annoying he really is.
He's that guy. You've played pickup with that guy.
Yeah, where he's so like, fucking annoying.
He's got the guy
you can't guard me. He's that guy. You can't guard me.
But like, he's the guy you play pickup with that shows up to the Y in 2 knee braces, 2 ankle braces, a set of elbow pads, and he really wants to go get a beer after, but you're just trying to find a way to leave him there. And it's like, the fact if Luka just outed himself as such a fucking bum of a human being across this final series, like, at least Kyrie took it like a fucking man, dude. I would also like to take this opportunity to say to Kyrie that Irving, though, hold that motherfucker, hold that L, please, thank you. It's heavy, don't drop it.
Let me ask you, did they show him
still hasn't won in our building, so step it up. Lucky.
Did they show him greeting the players? I obviously I didn't see the TV, but they showed it. Okay, because I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was kind of dicey that he was walking at the Celtics bench and saying, giving them congratulations in advance. But I was like, wow. But I'm like, I didn't think that was going to happen. Like, the boos were still loud, but I guess there was some people saying like they respected it in the crowd, because I was shocked. I thought that wasn't going to be the case. But listen. Kyrie Irving.
I thought it was nice of him to do that. Facts. And I thought it was nice of him to wait for all the Dallas Mavericks and give them their consolations as he walked. And I thought it was especially nice of him to do that, both those things, while holding that really heavy fucking L. You know what I mean? Like, that thing's like really, really hard to hold, like that's heavy. I don't want him to drop it.
Weird angles on it,
Yeah. No. And it's like, and the thing is like, that L has to live in his house now, like, he has to put it in a room, like, on display. Like, it's just going to follow him around forever. So, I mean, it's the thing, and honestly, the struggle.
I'm thankful. And listen, Kyrie, I want to be clear. I want to say this so, everyone can hear me. You promised that you would bring a championship to Boston. And
You were such a big part of it.
you
such a
delivered
big part of it.
So I from the bottom of my heart, number 11, from Duke, I want to say thank you because without you, my brother, without that 5-16 performance, you was almost close to 617, so you almost matched it. But I want to say thank you, my brother, because without you, this is not possible.
Is this the end of it now? Is this the end of the Kyrie?
It should be.
No.
It should be. All jokes aside, it should be. It should be. I know Mike feels up because we talked about the villain. It should be. So it should be.
Think of how long they booed Roger Clemens after he left the Red Sox. I mean, it's the comp, but like for Kyrie, half of me is like, no, they won 4 years later. Yeah, or 6 years later. Yeah, it's about the same time. So
that's true.
You can't. I really want to respect Kyrie for walking over to the bench and saying, just congratulating everybody. But I think like part of me is like he's doing this to rid himself of the bad juju that he thinks he carries and that is prohibiting him from winning in a building. You cannot be a superstar in the NBA and be unable to play in one building. And that's what he's been over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Like it's really in his fucking head. And they don't even need to chant "fuck you, Kyrie" or any other stupid shit that other people chant. They could literally just do a Roger type chant to him in that building.
You can tell,
and they will, and he'll lose it.
You can tell in the press conferences it was in his fucking head.
It gets to him.
Yeah,
it definitely does.
I honestly would say, like, just to answer like my thoughts on is it the end of it? I think it's a good question, and I think the best thing we could possibly do is not react as a crowd when he touches the ball in the arena anymore, because it's less like fuck you, and it's more like that scene in Mad Men where the guy turns around to Don Draper and he's like, I feel sorry for you, and Draper's like, I don't think about you at all. And it's just like such a cold line. And I just think the best way to do it would just be like, bro, like we hung a banner and it was like Ray said, because of you, and you sending the ghost of yourself to that finals, but also in spite of you, in spite of he thought he could cripple this franchise. And he was right when he crippled other franchises. He thought he was bigger than the franchises he was at. And he was probably correct in all but one place, because you can't do that to the Boston Celtics, bro. I feel we won a championship to spite him. You know what I mean? Like, I think that we as a city exist on spite. Like that's what the Charles River flows is pure spite. Like that scene in Ghostbusters where like the evil is just running through the sewers and it's just pure concentrated evil. And the Bostonians are watching that like, what, you can't handle a fucking evil river in your city, dude? Jesus Christ.
I love it. I love it.
So,
I love that comparison.
So it's just, for me, I'm just like, fuck Kyrie Irving still. But like, yeah, we don't need to worry about it. We don't need to be active about it anymore. Like, I don't care. I always thought he was a baller. My main thing about him now is my stock of him went down when I saw his basketball performance. I was scared of him going into that series, and I don't know why.
We always complimented Kyrie as a baller, me and DK. Like specifically,
everyone
we're like hating on his basketball. He sucked in this series. He was
sucked.
Not that Kyrie. Right?
He sucked.
But I mean but once again, when he left here, this series for him was very reminiscent of what happened when we lost to Milwaukee, his final series here. Remember game 1, we blow Milwaukee out the building, and we're like, oh my God. They've won 5 in a row. It's about to be it's about to be a wrap. We're gonna face
because that was the wait till they turn it on. Wait till we turn it on season.
Right, exactly. We're gonna turn it on, exactly. And then
we're gonna turn it on when we get to the playoffs, baby.
And then you lose 4 straight, right? And then essentially, you basically quit on the team. I think going like 6-22 in that final game. So this is a theme, right? Once again, he gets the love he gets because he hit one of the most important shots in NBA history, right? And I get that, but generally in the playoffs, he is choked. Not an opinion, that's a fact. hell of a talent. We'll continue to give you highlight reels for years to come until he says, I'm gonna call it quits. But in the postseason, he has come up small in stature. Once again, for someone who really shouldn't be afraid at the moment because his talent demands him to be someone that can get you 40 at any given time, maybe even 50 when he's on. But he's no longer that guy. And the best version of himself was really next to LeBron James. And he's been chasing that ever since, whether he wants to admit it or not. This is the closest he's come to it playing with Luka. because Luka has similar traits, but it's still much of the same. And regardless of how he wants to be a mature leader and articulate things in a different manner, you still can't get away from what you've been. And once again, I say thank you.
Luka does make him look so mature on the court, though. Like Luka, he was just exposed this year. I don't know if everyone else feels this way. Like he's just an asshole on the court, and like not a good asshole. Like he quits. It's visible. And then when he's trying to quit, he tries to get stupid ticky-tack fouls. And I used to hate, still do, when Tatum complains to the refs. Really fucking hate it when Marcus Smart does it. Luka does it more than both of them combined.
He does it on every play. He does it on every single play.
Every single play.
It's not broadcast.
It was my heart you said that out loud, Mike. So thank you. I'd give you a virtual hug. I appreciate that because
I don't understand how that's not the narrative behind Luka.
It is now.
It is now. I guess because he did it on the biggest stage.
The biggest possible stage.
That's what it takes.
Right.
Because that's what Tatum did.
But that's fair. I feel like. I feel like that's fair. Like, who are you when the fucking lights are the brightest? Like, that's a question. That's a question that we ask of our athletes. We're so hard on our guys compared to other teams' guys. If Luka Doncic played for the fucking Boston Celtics and put that defensive performance in, I don't know if he would make it.
Mike would have had a fucking aneurysm.
I don't know if he would have made it out of the city.
We would have died.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they would have traded his ass.
But I guess my question is, Mike, on a basketball level, can you win a fucking championship with Luka Doncic on your team if that's the defense he plays?
What a question.
Can you?
Yeah, you can.
That was such a defensive liability. Like he was such a defensive liability.
His blow-by percentage.
Those blow-by numbers were crazy.
It's out of this world, yeah.
It's such a huge hole. Like that's hard in today's day and age. Like you're looking at having his offensive output outweigh
60% of drives he gets blown by or something like that.
Dude, like if they have any sort of matchup on him in any playoff series, like I think he really had to thread a needle getting to the finals. They gave me Pacers vibes. Like you guys really shouldn't have made it this far.
Let me just ask you a question. If you subbed out everyone, let's just say Derek White on this team and put in Luka, and everything else is the same, you don't think we would have won a championship?
No, we didn't.
When do you put him in? At what point in time?
What's this season? Derek White's not here, and instead of Derek White, we have Luka the entire run. You don't think this team wins the championship?
We would be undefeated.
I think that I
love Derek White, but
probably we probably would have won a championship still. But
that'd be the most absurd team.
I just
hide him.
I just
would do that.
I just would say that I think you're probably right. We probably still would win, but I think the chemistry of this team is very it's a fine pH balance. And I think that Luka fucks with the chemistry of his team when he's being a bitch. You know what I mean? And I just think that the last thing that the Celtics team can really take as an ingredient is that. You know what I mean?
Okay, Luka with none of the Luka baggage. Now
you're overextending the metaphor. I think at this point, it's like Luka, but he's Michael Jordan. It's like, okay, well, great. We can add hypotheticals all day. I'm not even talking about his personality though. I really genuinely believe I would
that defense
for the current iteration of this Boston Celtics team and the way that we're currently set up. I would rather have Derek White than
100%. But
because
what if you
he's
put
the best blocking guard I've ever seen in my life. So, and that's
over blocks was absurd by the end of the playoffs. It was
I think it's
minus 340 for over one block.
It's totally all about the environment though. He cannot be on a team that believes in the way that he plays. He has to be the abstract on the team. So if you put him on the Heat from last year, they could win a championship because they're all just fucking dogs, and he's just going to be the offensive guy.
I think Jimmy Butler would hate him by the end of the season. I think that they would be on the outs.
For sure.
But even with that, right? And I think it's funny. I think you and Dave, you and I, Dave, we talked about this guy. I thought Bam Adebayo would be great down there in Dallas. So speaking,
he would have been a good addition for them for sure. They needed someone like that.
But far as the Heat point, real quick, like I said, mentality wise, yes, he does have his moments where he goes crazy and goes ballistic on a ref. Excuse me, but you hear Heat players past and present talk about what Pat Riley talks about, especially when you come in. If you're not in shape, you got to come in under 10% body fat. So I don't want to see Luka in great shape, because if he's in great shape, it might be a wrap. it might be a wrap if that man's actually in shape. Because
Yeah, but he's not, though, is the point. Like,
Well, that's
that's
what I'm saying.
isn't that fucking
Miami,
diabolical that he's in such bad shape? Like,
if he was in Miami, he would be. That's what I'm saying. He would be, because that they don't.
but that's
just
why
how
I'm saying it's. I don't know if it
even
works.
Shaquille O'Neal
I
was
don't
in
know
the
if
best
it
shape of
works.
his life down in Miami. So it's like it's possible. So I'm good. I would never want to see that. But
Imagine a cut Luka. Oh
yeah,
God.
you can win with him at the helm. I just think obviously you have to surround him a lot more with defenders. But even with him being a liability on defense, if he just gave the effort defensively that he gave against Minnesota,
He doesn't understand
he'd be
what
okay.
to do.
He'd be
He
okay.
doesn't understand what to do on defense. He
He guesses. He guesses a lot. That's the problem.
Yeah.
he genuinely has no mind for the defensive game of basketball. There was moments where Kyrie Irving was shoving him into the space that he needed to be in.
Mhm.
Like, it's absolutely fucking diabolical to put in that performance. And I feel like he's getting such a fucking pass on it right now on this podcast. Like, he's fucking, if he was here, think about it. If he was here and he did that in this,
we call him a coon. We call him a coon.
like, good God, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it would be a fucking wrap. Also, I'm thinking about whether or not I should say this, but I actually absolutely think it's true. If he was not white, he would be getting so much more fucking shit for his defensive performance also, by the way, because he gets that automatic, fundamentals, fucking, like, hardest working guy in the court. Like, he looks like he's the hardest working guy in the court. In fact, he might be the hardest working guy in the court, because it's hard to play basketball when you're a fucking fat ass. So, like, it's difficult, right?
He really
So
is.
imagine the fucking tenor of the media if Jayson Tatum was like fucking tired and chubby at the end of a fucking game 5 in it, like, at home, and we were losing because of that. Like, come on, dude. Like, I honestly, I don't even want to live in that world. I think that would be the start of the apocalypse. I think that would be the ground zero to the fucking apocalypse. And I just feel like people are like, nah, Luka, buddy, you got to work harder, man. All right, see you next season. And it's just, it doesn't seem fair. I mean, it was a diabolically lazy fucking finals performance. And yes, is he an unbelievable bucket getter? Yeah, he's a great scorer. He's a really, really good scorer. But Jayson Tatum was like not having good scoring games and out there fucking diving around for rebounds and working his ass off. So, like, come on, man.
Bro, this is like that meme where it's like he's out of line, but he's absolutely 100% correct. You know what I mean? Like, it's so out of line. Man,
God! I mean,
I've never heard truer statements in my entire. If Jayson Tatum was Glenn Big Baby Davis,
yeah.
right?
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Just think about like being a star, but the size of Big Baby Davis.
But Big Baby's not. What the thing is like, we were happy enough to have him as comic relief. You know what I mean? And like the sort of minutes,
you know what I'm saying?
At the like, 4, like underneath KG was like fine, right? Yeah, I do. Because if you can't be the best player on the team, this is what we live in, a post Kobe era. We live in a post Kobe NBA, and what Kobe did was he fucking advocated for being like every Kobe story. This is like fire up any podcast with fucking Matt Barnes dining out on like having played with Kobe Bryant, and it'll be about how like they were coming home from the club and they were watching him with his gym bag go to the fucking gym, right? And something about that speaks to us as a sporting community. There is no talent here. This is all hard work. That speaks to us as a sporting community. It makes it attainable. If you just set your mind to it, you can do it. They're not superhuman. They're just fucking harder workers. They are superhuman, by the way. But
Kobe was superhuman.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all fucking, you know, you can't just work super hard and get to the NBA unless you have like some God-given talent. But you see my point, though, right? Like, you see my point. I just feel like in today's NBA, I'm not sure how this guy's getting away with this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100% agree.
I just want that pregnant pause for effect.
I thought you froze.
No. Just wanted a pregnant pause for effect because I want everyone to really reflect on why.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
why we give him a pass.
We froze like Luka froze on defense, so no problem. I get it. No problem.
God. It was like Keystone Cops out there. I could hear Benny Hill music.
Your honest take is, and you too, Ray, is that he just doesn't know how to play.
That's
No,
mine.
Does he not-
not know how to play. I think
he tries to make up for effort by going for big plays every single time. He's like an out of shape Trevon Diggs. You know what I mean? Caught out of position 100% of the time, but he can't make up for it like Diggs can. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the athleticism. He's strong, but he's not as athletic.
At his size, you shouldn't be able to switch on him in the post and bully him to the degree that we were doing that. At his athletic ability, you shouldn't be able to run past him as easily as we were running past him.
He's really not that quick. He's
He
not.
presses square too
He's
much. He tries
so
to go for that
huge,
steal.
though.
You know
He's
what I mean?
enormous.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like
Just use your body, bro. Get your body in the right spot.
He has. I mean, he's big stature, but I'm like, I don't know. I was like, to me,
He's like 711 pounds, I think, is the at last checking. I think he clocked in at 711. He clocked in at 711 to eat some
Oh,
food.
he was yeah. He was 7-Eleven, but not because of the food. He was 7-Eleven because it was open season every time.
He wanted some fucking spicy nacho Doritos.
You see what we do here? This is what we do. This is how we do it, boys.
Oh my God! Welcome to the roast of Luka Doncic with your host DK Sissel.
They have him at 230 pounds. Fuck you.
He's not 230.
No, 260 minimum.
I think all of those numbers are in his weight.
Maybe it's. I don't know. Like I said, to me, once again, when you already, and this is all jokes aside, like when you struggle with lateral movement already,
you have to anticipate.
You have you have to anticipate, but you also have to once again be in the best shape. And once again, there's moments when he is in decent shape, but then like I said, right now and recently, like he just hasn't been that guy. And once again, you cannot be in the NBA and continue to guess on defense. Like, you know, Pat Bev said it best about Chris Paul, right? He said, "Oh, y'all love Chris Paul being a great defender, man. Chris Paul's a cone up there. Like, you can go around him or whatever." Now he's also to me talking about older Chris Paul because I'm like younger Chris Paul. That wasn't the case. Like, he
was in the NBA for the first 4 years. He could still hand check. In fairness,
right? Correct. Yeah. So it's just like, you know, that made it a little different. But I was just like, I don't know about that. But I mean, once again, he would know better than me. But yeah, I don't know. To me, your best player in that regard sets the tone. And once again, our two best players choose to defend every night. They don't take nights off defensively, and once again, that's why they're hosting the Larry O'Brien Trophy today. And you know, Dallas is on their way to Cancun.
That box one that they had on Jaylen on Luka the entire series was just so beautiful. It really looked like my dad saying that back in the day when, you know, the in-town basketball days, he used to do that to the best player. Our best defender would be on their best player. Follow that motherfucker to the bench if you have to. I want you on this motherfucker's hip the entire game, no matter where he goes. And that's what Jaylen did to Luka. And I feel like even that got them out of sorts. You know what I mean? Just having that presence on him the entire time and having to put all that effort on the defensive end.
I couldn't possibly actually 100% tell you for certain that Jrue Holiday sweats. Like, I'm not sure that he does. Because every time he went to the bench, he looked like he just came out for the walkout. Like, he sat down and he was just like fucking clean. And he was running more and working harder than everybody else out there. And to have this team with all this talent on it still decide that we're just going to outwork them. We're just going to outwork them at every single level. And that's how we're going to win. Mm-hmm. I love that. And it enabled them to do some of the annoying things that they do on offense without as much ire from me because they were playing such good D, you know?
That's again why Joe Mazzulla is going to have a long-term contract here because he gets these guys to work like that. I know that
they also didn't need to for the first part of the playoffs. Like they knew they had the confidence and the scheming defensively, and matchups obviously played a huge part. We match up really well against fucking everybody, but they didn't have to punch themselves out in the first 3 rounds. Like they didn't have to work to get to the finals. Like they could coast I wouldn't say coast because like they were still, you know, leading from their defense and stuff, but they were able to go into second gear. They were able to go from second gear to third gear with real confidence, right? And I think a big thing about this team in the past has been like, oh shit, we got to get into third gear. Oh fuck. And then they like would Wile E. Coyote it, you know, like their legs would spin in place, but they wouldn't actually go anywhere. And you would just be like, come on, guys, like if you were just started the game in third gear, then like we wouldn't, you know, or just try to get up there, not based on the circumstances of the game, try and just get up to third gear or fourth gear and like play, you know, to that level no matter what. That's what we were asking for. Ime got that out of them, and then they were fucking so tired by the time they got to the finals. But it was like, oh, that doesn't seem sustainable. So then we kind of overcorrected the following year with this thing of like, no, we're just going to be this huge volume shooting team. We're just going to like drown you in the accuracy we have all across the floor from three, and if we get open looks from the mid range, like we're just going to kill you. And we really just had to Goldilocks that shit this year. We just had to like marry those two concepts together and decide when to be one team and decide when to be the other team when appropriate. And I think confidence played a huge part in that, because they just looked like they knew they could do that. They looked like they could meet you at any level and fight you in any battle. They were like, wherever you want this fight to go. You'll see this in the UFC sometimes, in MMA. You'll be like, the guy is just so much better than the other guy. He's like, you want to wrestle? And he like beats him in wrestling. He's like, you want to do jiu-jitsu? I'm better at that than you too. You want to fucking have a boxing match? Like, let's go. And you see it sometimes, and the last person in the world you want to be is that other guy. And that's just what the Dallas Mavericks look like to me. We did want to touch on Brad Stevens briefly, and I do think that President Brad deserves some credit, but I would like Mike to wax lyrical first about the guy who really did have his fingerprints all over this team, and a guy I think should be mentioned in our sort of Victory Lap Championship podcast. And that's a Mr. Danny Ainge. We had 2 third overall picks out there that were the best players on the court, and they were the 2 guys the national media said were absolutely not going to be the 2 best guys on the court. They were not going to be. Yep. 2 third overall picks, and Danny Ainge gave us our 2 best players through the decisions he made, circumstantial or otherwise. Mike, can you talk a little bit about the identity of the team, how it's looked from you from the Danny days, and like what Brad has done since to really push this team over the edge? I mean, I think it was a perfect combo, those 2 guys.
Yeah, I thought that obviously like Danny did the best to get that bag that he got from Brooklyn for KG and Paul.
That's what started this whole thing, no?
Yeah, like that was it. Like that 2013 trade, like that's it. And knowing to not take Markelle Fultz and let him go, and to go after Tatum and Brown, even Marcus Smart. Again, I shit on Smart all the time, and he deserves it. But like the team that Danny built for Brad in those first couple of years were, I mean, we were never supposed to be contenders again like that quickly, and we were in the mix within 2 years. I love, like, we don't have Al Horford without Danny Ainge, so like that's huge. And I think even more so, Danny knew to pick Brad. Like he went out and sought after Brad because of his basketball IQ. Never having coached in the NBA before, he saw something in this kid. The same way that we just talked about Brad finding Joe Mazzulla, right? It's just like they just keep passing this knowledge down or identifying who would make the next best coach. And I think it was the perfect scenario. Like Danny, in his entire tenure after 2008, we were really never out of it. Right, there was that one year where we were the 8th seed, right? In Brad's first year, we got swept out of the playoffs.
Second.
They were like the 7. Or
they were 7th seed the second year, because the first year they went 25 and 57.
Yeah.
The next year they trade for IT out of nowhere from Phoenix, and then they went on a run the second half of that year and got into the playoffs, but lost to Cleveland in the first round.
It always felt like Danny knew how to put players around the team that were like gritty and like the little engines that could. And the one thing he struggled with was like identifying how to go get that other killer, like he did back when he had Paul, and when he got Ray Allen and KG. Mm-hmm. And Brad just knew what to pull. He's like, we need this is the team that I would have liked to have coached, right? And this is why. And he went out and got them. And I just thought, like, what a great transition that does not happen in the NBA. It very rarely happens in any professional sport to that level.
Yeah. I wonder. I think building a roster is like really difficult, and we saw like a lot of examples of approaches to roster building in this playoffs, especially in the Western Conference. Ray and I have talked a lot about how the Timberwolves are built to beat the Nuggets, and like is building your team to beat the best team in your conference the right approach. I mean, it could still work, but this idea of like really going all in on the sort of homegrown picks that you've made and having the luxury, honestly, to do that, because it's not as if Jayson, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, for all this stupid speculation of like, can they play together, blah, 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 blah. Neither one of them was ever Ben Simmons. Neither one of them was ever going to be a bust, right? That where we saw from pretty much day dot that they were going to be good basketball players. Like, could they be good enough to win a championship? I don't know. We didn't know. Obviously, now the answer is yes. But to then sort of go out and identify, like, yeah, here's how we're going to build a super team. We're going to take pressure off our best guys by having guys that can do all the things. Like, if we need scoring, we have guys after the two best guys that can score. If we need rebounding, we have that. If we need one-on-one defense, we have that. And they really did make it a full team. Like, they spread the love, and I think that's how they were acting. And I wonder if I could get your guys' thoughts on Jaylen Brown winning Finals MVP. I personally, my vote went to Jrue Holiday. Personally, I'm sure a lot of people maybe voted for Jayson Tatum after that Game 5. But Ray, fair, not fair, happy, not happy, does it matter?
So I mean, I don't think it does matter, but like I said, I want to give credit to a friend of mine I spoke to earlier, and they were speaking about his basketball maturity, meaning Jaylen Brown. And that's what we've seen each year, right? His basketball IQ has grown each year. And yeah, I mean, listen, I think when we look back in a few years to say that he averaged, 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, is it, out of this world numbers? No, right? But what he did.
Oh, that was an eye test series for Jaylen Brown.
No, right. I'm saying, but what he did defensively against Luka, what he did defensively against Kyrie at times, that's what it spoke to. For me, this is just my theory. I have not heard this anywhere. This is just something that I personally think. We kind of talked about this a little bit after the Indiana series as well, but because they, I think, collectively knew that they made a mistake by not putting, Brown on the All-NBA team. All he had to do was not fuck it up, and he was going to get MVP for both series. I just think it was pretty.
I feel like that's true.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine by me. That's cool, because I'm just like, whatever. He was excellent as a vocal leader. He was excellent on the court. Like, I'm fine with that. But I just think, to me, it was predetermined that regardless, like I said, all he had to do was just not fuck it up, and he was going to be MVP.
I don't know about that.
I feel like Tatum had that shot.
The reason I'll explain further, because I figured I was going to get some when I thought about it earlier. I just think that the narrative has switched drastically in this man's favor. And once again, we're old enough to remember, once again, even on the show, when it was jokes about the left hand, it was jokes about him turning the ball over. We were killing him after the Miami series last year. Once again, that was just a year ago. And all of a sudden, it's across the board. I'm not saying on here, but across the board, it's this newfound love and respect. So with that comes that admiration. It comes the accolades individually, and it's also rightfully deserved, because he's gotten better each year. I just think that's it. Once that happened, that's just my theory. Once again, I could completely be off base, and I would love to hear your thoughts of people that will comment on this once they see this. But I just think that, like I said, all he had to do was just, like I said, play the way he had been playing, and they were going to make sure that he got that because he had been the Celtics' best player all playoffs, and that's fine.
I think the shot he hit in Game 1 of the ECF gave him that MVP. That was the biggest. It's probably the biggest shot of the entire playoffs for the Celtics, because that's really what set them off on this run.
Yes,
I think that Tatum had that quality first, though. Like, I think
he did.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong to say that about Brown. I see what you're saying. I understand your point, but I think that Tatum still had the ability to. Like, I think everybody was waiting to not vote for Jayson Tatum. It was like, okay, he has to have a certain kind of series for us to not vote for him. I think that I think the best player is sort of, you can pencil him in, right? Like, the factual best player on a team, you can sort of pencil him in on your ballot, and then everyone had to sort of like turn the pencil over and be like, all right, he probably wasn't the best player. However, Jayson Tatum led the team in points. He led the team in rebounds. He led the team in assists. Like you said, I mean, the eye test doesn't quite support it. I think that there's one or two guys that maybe had a better series than him, but I just wonder, like, I know I asked the question, but I just wonder, like, does it matter? Like, does it matter, especially about this Celtics team? Like, we built a full team. We built the best roster and we won the fucking thing. Like, since when is that? Like, how are you going to kill us for that? Like, how are you going to kill us for building the best roster and fucking winning?
It matters
it matters to the national media and NBA Twitter. It doesn't really matter, I think, to most Celtics fans. I just think for me, once again, and this is just something where, and Mike, I want you to chime on this part because you haven't gone so far. So my apologies there. But I just think that if we had seen somebody else on another team that led in points, led in rebounds, led in assists, and grew exponentially as a playmaker in that series, we would look at it and be like, how did they not get MVP? That's all I'm saying. Once again, I'm cool with Jaylen Brown getting it.
I think everybody can agree that
we would look at it and say, how did that not happen? That's all I'm saying.
No one's saying that about Tatum. He wasn't even close to the best player in the series.
No, but once again, if most of the time that award is given off like this to me, and once again, you can Mike chime in after I say this. This felt like the Andre Iguodala award when he got it in 2015.
That's so insulting to Jaylen Brown. He's a way better player.
Full-time champion.
He's a way better individual player. That's not fair.
No, but go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
But I think that's a good comp because I don't think that either of those two can they don't care about the actual MVPs. They just want rings, right? And it's I think. Listen, yes, on paper, Jayson Tatum was the best player in the series, but I think that
he just wasn't though.
But Tatum on paper,
he just wasn't though. He just wasn't the best player in the series. Like you can on paper, on land, on sea, on air. I don't know. He just wasn't. I watched the series. He just wasn't.
But that's okay. But that's what I'm saying. There's many of the voters think exactly how Dave was that demonstrative about it. That's what they was like. Nope, I've seen enough. He can't do it. He'll never be that guy.
No. How is that what I said? That's not even close to what I said.
But I'm saying, but that's
completely different than what I said.
That's how they take it, though. Is what I'm saying. That's how they take it. That may not be understood, but that's how they take it.
No, I'm literally saying it's fine that he wasn't the best player in the series, though. It's like it's okay. Like it's not the fucking end of the world. It's really hard to be the best player in a final series. It doesn't mean he never will. It doesn't mean he this isn't good for his growth. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means he wasn't the best player in the series. No one can tell me that he was. There's just no. I mean, you can bring up his box score, but he just wasn't. Yeah. Like we all watched it. Like,
that's what I was saying. It's like the stats, whatever. On when you're watching it, Jaylen dominated. Yeah. He dominated defensively. He was the vocal leader. He was in times when a run needed to be stopped throughout these last two series. It's Jaylen and Drew that stopped him.
Yeah. That win.
That's it. And I do think it matters to Jaylen because I do think, there was this thing out there that he's the highest paid player, but he's not even the best player on his team. All this shit. And it's just no, I just won Eastern Conference MVP, NBA Finals MVP, and now a champion. Right. I don't think his head's going to be inflated because it's fine. If Tatum gets all the commercials, let Jaylen get all the hardware. Who cares?
Great. Who wants to be that fucking guy? Can I just say though one thing before we move on? If Al Horford won it, it would have been closer to Andre Iguodala, considering the times of their career. Steph Curry, the gap between Steph Curry and Andre Iguodala when Andre Iguodala won Finals MVP is a chasm compared to the gap between Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Come on, surely.
But the reason why I was saying that it's not we're thinking player to player, and I was saying I get from what the individual stats have now become obviously for Jaylen Brown, but what I mean is Iguodala didn't have great scoring numbers in that series, but because he took the assignment of being on LeBron and was really great defensively that series. That's what in most minds they was like, okay. He
wasn't the best player in the series.
Curry didn't get it. Curry didn't get the MVP until they beat Boston a couple years ago.
I know, but he was the best player in that. Curry was the best player in that Iguodala series, though. He was the best player. From just watching it, he was the best player. So right, yeah, I get it that they just gave it to a guy for reasons, but I think Jaylen Brown was maybe the best player in this series, though. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's total. No, I'm saying I'm with you. I'm saying I'm thinking that's just the first comparison that came to mind. It doesn't make it true. I'm saying that's
I guess my first thought is the Andre Iguodala comparison always brings up it feels like a participation trophy or something. I know how much Iggy did in that series. I know he did a really good job, but to me, I guess what I'm saying is I can still. So you could still talk me into Jaylen Brown being a better basketball player than Jayson Tatum. You could still talk me into that. And playoff performances is a huge thing. You were saying about Kyrie earlier. He was always supposed to be this fucking killer in the playoffs. That's his narrative. That's what's on the back of the book. Kyrie Irving's a fucking playoff assassin. But then you can point to these examples of him just not being that. So it's dumb. It's dumb to go like he's better than him. He's better than him. Like it doesn't really matter. Like we said, but like to me, Jaylen Brown earned that accolade by, and I think we're agreeing. Like he earned that accolade by not only being the best player in this series, he was the best player in the last series. He was maybe the best player in the series before that. And he, as I've been saying all year, is after maybe the first 2 weeks, he had a weird like first few weeks of the regular season. I wasn't sure what was going on with him. Maybe he was just like figuring out how to spend that money. But by the time Christmas came around, he was playing his best basketball in a Celtics uniform. And that's just been true. Right.
Let me ask this then. So let me give a different name. Maybe this is a better comparison in your mind, and maybe those that are listening. Would you compare it to when Chauncey Billups won against LA then?
Yeah, that's a better comparison.
Because she was the missing trade. He came over. I think many people thought that she was going to be the guy that got it because he was their best player usually for the rest of that year, really during that run. But
honestly, I would compare it to Paul getting it. I would compare it to Paul getting it.
Paul Pierce?
Yeah, I would compare it to him getting it because, quite honestly, he had a great playoffs. He had a great finals. He played his ass off. He one-on-one defended all the best wing players in basketball for that 08 run with the help of Ray Allen. But like still, I mean, Jaylen had Drew. Ray Allen underrated defensively, also, by the way, I'd like to say.
I feel like
KG was the team. KG was the guy on the team that everybody thought was our best player because he was. He was the guy with the most talent. And he was the guy with the most ability. Like he was the reason we were doing what we were doing. Or I would say a similar comparison, even though Dwayne Wade rightfully won the Finals MVP that year, like him and Shaq, everybody was like, "Oh, Shaq's here now, fucking three-peat, like Superman's here, like he's gonna do this shit." Dwayne Wade went fucking berserk in the last 2 rounds of that playoffs, and it was like, yeah, maybe Shaq at the time, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was a closer comparison, but Shaq was still the best center on the planet when he was on the Heat by a lot, and he wasn't winning Finals MVP because of the performances. You know what I mean? Like it reminds me of those where it's like, I don't think anyone's going to turn around and call Jaylen Brown the best player on the Celtics. I still think he'll probably get slandered by all NBA voting. I still think he'll probably get fucking slandered by TikTok. It's easy to make fun of him. He can't go left, da. But you can never take that away from him. He's a deserved Finals MVP, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, obviously we went in different directions, but yes, the main point and the only point that matters is that yes, he was deserving of it. Like I said, there are comparisons. Like I said, once again, those in the comments, leave another comparison that we didn't bring up. And I'm sure there's one that we didn't think of in the moment. But either way, it was deserved. Once again, even let's go back further when we were all very little. And look, Jaylen Brown looked like Scotty guarding Magic Johnson when they won their first. And this is not the first time we brought up the 91 comparison. We said this last year, they just didn't win it, but we brought it up. And Jaylen Brown looked very much like Scotty Pippen.
By the way, very similar players, actually.
Absolutely.
Very similar players.
Absolutely. Could say, you know what? I'm shutting down the best player tonight. He's not scoring. Like, not scoring, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a long night.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, get ready for that comparison. That's going to be happening a lot. We keep winning titles. That Scotty.
Fine by me.
I mean, Michael Jordan was one of the best defenders that the game has ever seen, but he needed an elite on the ball defender next to him to win titles like this. And that's not a slap in the face of Michael Jordan. Winning titles is fucking hard. Like you need, they went from when they had Dennis Rodman, right? Like he had the best rebounder in basketball on his team. Like when he had Scottie Pippen, he had the best one-on-one defender in basketball at times on his team. He was going up against killers, but he had killers on his fucking team. You don't need to get slandered for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. You don't have to be LeBron James. You don't have to show up with Mike Nicholson on your fucking team starting at point guard. Fucking Bobby Basketball starting at shooting guard. Like, those ludicrous rosters LeBron would show up. I mean, very impressive that he was able to do it with the guys that he had on his team. But basically, everybody else had to have a bunch of fucking killers on their team. Larry Bird had Danny Ainge. Larry Bird had so many players. I'd be fucking sitting here listing players for so fucking long if we talk about that. Magic Johnson walked into Kareem. Like, Magic Johnson just walked into a fucking 28-a-night Kareem at will. Like, these guys all had good players on their team. It's fine to have good players on your team. In fact, you need to have good players on your team to win NBA Finals series. Yes, I'm sorry that it was so one-sided. I'm sorry that there was no drama. NBA world. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not. Boston Celtics are the 2024 NBA champions. And I said at the top of the show, I'm happily say it on behalf of everybody here and the entire city of Boston, suck our dicks. Celtics in 5. This has been Missing the Point.